one of the things that I have always been fascinated with, partially because I feel like I grew up almost in one, is cults and just how insane they can be, and yet how so many people can just be on board with it. Like, how bad is your life personally that you can listen to some clearly unhinged individual just spout off the most preposterous garbage, and you think, yeah, that's probably the way to go. That's what I need in my life. So you give up all your possessions, you start banging everybody, or you just let him bang your wife, whatever, or let him, let it get gay for a little bit. Who knows? I'm assuming you listening to this are a man, or you couldn't be. Sometimes my wife listens to this. She's a woman. You get it. So I've always been fascinated by it. Almost as much, maybe more than my fascination with serial killers. The good thing, maybe, is that there's, a lot more serial killers in the world than there have been cults. But for the next 10 weeks, for the rest of this summer, we are doing nothing but cult stories. It is officially the summer of cult. And with that, welcome to our weird world. I am your host, John Henson. Who that song gets me going. That is, as I thought the Serial Killers September custom song was good. This one definitely tops it. Oh, man. Oh, God. So good. So good. So let's get into our first cult of the summer. It is Rajneeshpuram.
Story time. Story time. Story time? Story time.
Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh was born on December 11th, 1931 in Kuchwada, India, or he was born 700 years before that and was a mystic who was murdered 3 days before the end of a 21-day fast that would have ended in his full enlightenment. You decide. Anyway, as a child, Rajneesh was considered highly intelligent, but also very rebellious. In 1953, at age 22, Rajneesh took a gap year from college to go find himself and meditate. You know how college kids are. At this point, he did achieve his enlightenment and had a spiritual awakening where he realized that he was actually 700 years old and was murdered. He realized also that unique religious experiences could not be organized into a single true religion, i.e., only Christianity or only Islam being the one true religion. And honestly, I can get on board with that thought, right? Is there really one true religion, or do all religions kind of have something in common? They kind of do. Anyway, I'm not going to get super deep into that, right? This isn't about me, you guys. This is about how this crazy cult came about. There's a kitty scratching his scratching post behind me. Anyway, by 1959, he had received his bachelor's and master's degrees in philosophy. Oh, God, he was probably a joy to be around. and he was appointed as a lecturer at the Mahakoshal Arts College at the University of Jabalpur. He then began traveling around India and preaching to whoever would listen to him. And because he was extremely charismatic, he quickly gained a following. He would conduct meditation camps, which became his primary source of new followers, and encouraged people to break free of the religious chains their parents had kept them under and to follow his new, definitely not a religion, which is it's like, okay, everybody. There's going to be a lot of this episode. You just have to deal with it. Everybody, you need to break free from the religious chains that your parents held you to and strap yourself into my religious chains, because it's not a religious chain. It's not a religion, but it is a religion. You understand? In 1966, Rajneesh resigned from his teaching position to become a full-time religious leader of his definitely not a religion. It's not a religion, but he is a religious leader. However, most people in his community already hated him, believing that he was anti-religion and began calling him the sex guru instead, because obviously there was a lot of sex going on in his not religion. 2 years later, he openly embraced his sex guru reputation, declared that sex was divine, and wrote a book about the primal energy of sex. So, look, this is why we led with this one, all right, in this series. It's checking off all the boxes. Insane leader, trying to redefine religion, all about sex. Like, that's the big three, you know? Thanks to the cultural changes and the cultural revolution of the late 1960s, Rajneesh's sex-positive message began to really resonate with the sexually repressed Western cultures. He began directly interacting with the women who attended his lectures. I don't know, that may, directly interacting, just walking up to them, just sticking his wiener in their face, probably. He would then invite them to private sessions where he would, quote, help them along the path to enlightenment, probably by sticking his enlightened wiener in their unenlightened holes. By the 1970s, Rajneesh was speaking in stadiums in Bombay to as many as 30,000 people at a time. When he realized how much more money the Westerners had than his own native people, he began focusing his attention more on them and attracting them as his followers, charging them for taking his path of enlightenment, again, also known as just his wiener. Basically, he was like reverse whoring himself at this point. We're just like, I can show you the path of enlightenment with my new religion, which is definitely not a religion, by the way. I'll show you the path of the enlightenment by sticking my wiener in a private session, show you enlightenment. I give you my enlightenment. That is how the enlightenment would be transferred from me to you. It is a very simple process. Feel very good. Mostly for me, not for you, especially in your butt. Anyway, you get it. Within a couple of years, Rajneesh was rolling in more cash than he knew what to do with. He opened a lavish compound in Pune, 90 miles east of Bombay. He would arrive to his lectures in limousines and Rolls Royces. He then began franchising his meditation practices by directing his closest followers to go out and open meditation centers all over the world. Rajneesh's compound soon became too overcrowded with people from the West just wanting to get sexually enlightened, basically. And so he ordered his secretary to go find them a new place to live. Now, this secretary is a very important character in this story. We will learn more about her later. However, this group had become so controversial in India that both locals and government officials refused to sell them any other plots of land. The Indian government also revoked the group's tax-exempt status and backdated it and began claiming that the group owed them $5 million in back taxes. To make things worse, a Hindu fundamentalist group staged an assassination attempt against Rajneesh by throwing a knife at him while he made his way through a large crowd. As real weak assassination attempt, all right? That's just like a step above the Muslim guy who threw the shoe at George W. Bush at the press conference. Like, it's not a good attempt, Like, even if the knife lands, the likelihood of it landing in a place that would kill him and going deep enough that it would kill him very low. You got to gun your assassination attempts. Anyway, On April 11th, 1981, the Rajneesh Foundation, which was the name for Rajneesh's group, aka Definitely Not a Religion, aka cult, announced that Rajneesh would enter a period of silence and only speak to those in his inner circle. So it's not really silence. This allowed Rajneesh's second in command, Ma Anand Sheila, to make a sharp rise in power. This is that secretary that we were talking about. She was given irrevocable power of attorney and began securing land in Oregon for the cult to relocate to. 3 months later, on July 10th, the cult purchased the Big Muddy Ranch in Central Oregon for $5.75 million. At first, 15 cult members moved in and began building up the community. Locals living near the ranch were told that this cult was simply there to operate a farm. However, over the first few months, the cult worked non-stop and actually turned the ranch into a small town, complete with its own power grid, water systems, plumbing, and roads. As time went on and more members arrived at the new compound, the cult built their own bank, dam, pizza restaurant, and airport. And as the compound grew, residents of the nearby town of Antelope were growing increasingly wary of these people, especially after the group began buying up buildings in the town of Antelope and conducting their, free love philosophies out in the open. So it's like it's late 70s, early 80s. You're just in this rural Oregon town, and this is not like the liberal part of Oregon either. This is like central western Oregon, where it's as red can be. And you have all these Indians showing up, and then just almost overnight, seemingly, they just build up this town out of this ranch area. And then they start trickling into your town. They start buying up all the businesses, and then they start just fornicating, just out in the open, just walking down to the pharmacy, and just there's a couple of Indians just banging it out right there on the park bench. What can you do? Nothing. You can't do nothing because they're here, and you'll see why. In October of 1981, the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Office began investigating the cult for immigration fraud. Meanwhile, the cult continued its operations and even got their new mini-city of Rajneeshpuram incorporated into Wasco County. Almost immediately, voters in the town of Antelope, together with the environmental group 1,000 Friends of Oregon, filed a lawsuit against the cult to disincorporate and return the land to the county. They argued that the Rajneeshis were not using the land to simply farm as they had originally stated, and that everything should be torn down. Despite a lot of political gamesmanship from various local and state figures, the lawsuit was overridden and Rajneeshpuram was allowed to stay incorporated. Because again, they're not doing anything illegal, and they are still technically farming, right? Like they are, because like how else are they going to eat, right? Like they're developing all these crops, but they also smartly developed all of the other utilities and things that they needed to sustain themselves and grow as a society. And so you had all these sensitive white people who didn't want all these non-white people encroaching on it. And look, I get it, right? Like, I don't care what color you are. I don't want to see a random group of people just show up and then just them naked and banging. Because it's not like, here's the thing, it's not like they all looked great, right? Like, there are pretty Indian people, don't get me wrong, but there's billions of them. Maybe not billions, but there's over 1 billion of them. The percentage of them that look great is very low, right? I'm just being honest with you, all right? That's the way it is. And honestly, here's the thing, that's the way it is for every race, right? There's billions of white people. The percentage of white people that look great, pretty low, right? Same for black people. Honestly, I would say black people probably have the highest percentage. Them people don't age, and they stay fit, all right? It's crazy. Asians, same thing, Maybe they may be a little bit higher than the black population because, again, they don't age. But when they do, they age like 1 billion years. I don't get it. It's crazy how different races of humans just change so differently. That's not a racist statement, by the way. I felt some of you pucker your buttholes a little bit. That's just an observation, right? Nothing about that was said with meanness and cruel intent. It's just an observation, all right? There's a reason black don't crack is a saying. I don't know what the the comparable saying is for Asians. I don't know. But I'm just saying, back to my original point, though, is that Indians, the Indian race, I don't know what, the Middle Eastern, they're not really. It's kind of like half Middle Eastern, half black, half white, which is not possible percentage-wise. You get it. But anyway, the point is, man, there's Indians. Imagine you just walking into town and there's just Indians everywhere. It smells like curry. It stinks to high heaven because that stuff smells bad when they cook it. If you've lived in an apartment complex where there's multiple Indian families living, you know what I'm talking about. It stinks. And they're just there banging, just butts in the air. And that you can't do anything about it because they're just this group of people that came in and started developing this land, and they did it all legally, but you're trying to find loopholes to get them disincorporated. But no, you can't do it. Anyway, you get it. Back to the story. With their incorporation finally set, the Rajneeshis began building several hundred houses and apartments, a shopping mall, a warehouse, a 4-story hotel, and a factory, all with the goal of building a city that could accommodate 100,000 residents. Now, for context, as of the 2020 census, which is most recent, obviously, official data, there are only 5 cities in Oregon that are larger than 100,000 people currently. It's Portland, Eugene, Salem, Gresham, and Hillsborough. Gresham and Hillsborough, I do believe, are suburbs of Portland, so they don't really even count. Beaverton and Bend are close to 100,000. Beaverton's another Portland suburb, so they don't really count either. So really, you're probably looking at like 1, 2, 3, 4 areas where there are more than 100,000 people. And Rajneeshpuram, and this is now. And so you're talking like in the 1980s, this Indian cult coming in, and they wanted to create a city of 100,000 people, in the middle of, Central Oregon. Meanwhile, Sheila, let's not forget Sheila, she continued to grow more and more powerful as Rajneesh's right-hand woman. And so she decided, because he's still over in India, running all of his, sexual enlightenment, he didn't care what's going on in America. So Sheila decided to make the town of Antelope pay for filing a lawsuit against them. She bought up several more properties inside Antelope city limits, including the town cafe, and then quickly prohibited that cafe from serving bacon. And that, I don't like this woman, and you'll see more why later. But just the pettiness, that's just such a good move. Sheila also bought practically every house that went up for sale in town at way above market value, which allowed cult members to move in and subsequently run for city council seats in Antelope, which they subsequently won and used to influence local issues in favor of the cult. In response, the remaining anti-Rajneesh locals in Antelope began creating their own anti-Rajneesh merch, shined spotlights into cult members' homes at night, and just openly carried rifles in the streets, brandishing them to any cult members they came in contact with. Like, it's getting serious now. All right. Like, when you start walking around with assault rifles, well, maybe not assault rifles, but just, hunting rifles even. All right, let's probably try to figure something out, right? Meanwhile, several people associated with the 1,000 Friends of Oregon group and non-cult members of the Antelope City Council began receiving boxes of chocolates that made many of them sick. One person actually found a pin in the bottom of a chocolate, and though no one claimed responsibility, many people believed that this was like another one of Sheila's super passive but very, very aggressive attacks. On July 29th, 1983, the Hotel Rajneesh that the cult had opened in downtown Portland was bombed 3 times in the span of less than 2 hours. However, only the bomber, Stephen T. Pastor, was injured when he lost a few fingers in one of the explosions. Do what you can. He was later convicted and sentenced to 5 years in prison. In response to this attack, the cult began purchasing a ton of weapons and began regularly holding target practices, all in the name of self-defense. And this is kind of where, you start getting people's attention. Oh, a bunch of minorities are stockpiling weapons. That they can't be up to anything good. Never mind that, they're being constantly harassed by people in a town that they took over, and that, some crazy white guy tried to bomb their, one of their locations in Portland. That we're not going to consider that. They can't be stockpiling all these weapons. They're clearly up to something terrible. The following year, in July of 1984, the residents of Antelope, by now who were mostly cult members, voted to be absorbed into the growing town of Rajneeshpuram. Soon, all of the street names were changed to Hindu names, and a local park was transformed into a nude sunbathing area. Non-cult members, that, the few that were still in the town, soon began complaining of constantly hearing the pleasured moans of cult members having sex outside everywhere at all hours of the day. However, these complaints went unanswered because the cult had taken over the town's police force and changed it to a peace force, which, in Portland, nearby Portland, that'd probably go over really well. Not out, in Central Oregon, though. As word of the cult's activities spread, Sheila went on a massive media tour to tout all of the great things the cult was doing. However, Sheila, not a great personality. All right. She's very abrasive, very unempathetic, and she just did not care. Here's what I'm talking about.
Sheila, whatever your plans are, we don't want the Rajneeshis. We don't want the orange people in our town.
What can I say? Tough titties.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack in just that 10-second soundbite. All right, first, contextually, I think that interviewer was sort of relaying some of the sentiments that the white people had in their time, but he called them orange people, and that's insane. And that's from the 1980s. I mean, it's 45 years ago, but we don't want the orange people. They're not Oompa Loompas. That's crazy that you used to be able to say that. But then, honestly, my favorite, man, just tough titties. Tough titties. That was her catchphrase. Yeah, they're just tough titties. Oh, you don't like our town coming in? Oh, well, tough titties. Oh, you don't like that we bought up the police department and now we made them a peace force? Oh, tough titties. Oh, you don't like that the whole town smells like curry and we don't serve pork in the cafe anymore? Tough titties. Oh, you don't like that all of our members are having sex all over the town, out in public? Tough titties. It's just... God, so funny. So, needless to say, Sheila put a lot more negative coverage on the cult than positive. And to make things worse, while all of this was going on, the Wasco County Commission was still actively trying to shut this cult down. After a failed attempt to bring in tens of thousands of homeless people from all over the country with the promise of shelter, in exchange for registering to vote and subsequently voting in favor of any Rajneeshpuram issues, which is an insane thing to do, by the way, Sheila decided that the next logical thing to do was to poison everyone who just wasn't in the cult. So, in September of 1984, Sheila ordered cult members to start spreading salmonella all over the town. She told them to spread it on produce in the grocery stores. She told them to spread it on doorknobs and urinal handles in the county courthouse, and to go spread it in the salad bars of 10 local restaurants in the town. In all, 751 people were infected and 45 people were sent to the hospital. No one ended up dying, so that's good. But now she is straight up launching biological warfare against the white people. Let's be honest. I don't think there are any black people in Antelope, Oregon. Maybe there was one. Although the CDC initially accused food handlers of the outbreak, wary locals and Oregon State Congressman Jim Weaver publicly accused the cult of masterminding the attack. Back at the cult city, Rajneesh was becoming increasingly frustrated with Sheila over all of her failed attempts to gain as much political control as possible. He also proclaimed that a 15-year period of natural disasters would begin soon, and that those disasters would lead to a global holocaust. So now, Rajneesh, who's just been penis enlightening everybody in India for years at this point. He's finally like hearing enough of this bad press coming from America because he's very keyed into Western media and all of that because that's where he's getting all of his money from. And he's getting tired of Sheila just messing everything up all the time. So now he's going to go full cult leader, which, I mean, who's the real cult leader at this point? Is it him or Sheila? But like he goes full cult leader at this point, and he's like, oh yes, a 15-year period of natural disasters will begin soon. It will all lead to a global holocaust. Please get your penis enlightenment today so you will not suffer during the global holocaust. During this period, Rajneesh claimed that he and his inner circle would retreat underground and later emerge when the coast was clear to create a new world full of just enlightened Indian cult members, I guess. Soon, Rajneesh ended up replacing Sheila with two new people, Ma Anand Hasya and Deva Raj. Jealous now, Sheila had Rajneesh's room wiretapped and began listening to every private conversation he had. Through this, although Rajneesh announced that he was breaking his public silence, which had lasted for only 3 years, and that he would return to preaching to the cult, all of the negative public sentiment had reached an all-time high, and the cult actually lost 1984 county elections in a landslide. So by now, enough people came in and voted in, the countywide elections, and it's still, they have control of the Antelope City Council, but countywide, enough people voted out all of the Rajneesh cult members. On January 14th, 1985, the Wasco County Planning Department office was set on fire. Authorities found that very suspicious, considering the office held all of the files on the disputes between the Rajneeshis and Oregon residents. The fire ended up destroying as many as half of Wasco County government's files. Now, at this point, Sheila had come to believe that Rajneesh had told Deva Raj that he would die on July 6, 1985. In response, Sheila then ordered one of her assistants to assassinate Raj by injecting him with poison. However, Raj fought off the assassin, and also Rajneesh didn't die on July 6th. So weird. In addition to Raj, Sheila also conspired to assassinate Charles Turner, the United States Attorney for the District of Oregon, as well as Dave Frohnmeyer, the Oregon Attorney General at the time. However, neither of these plans were ever carried out. By September of 1985, Sheila and several cult members began leaving the cult. As she and Rajneesh conducted a war of words against each other, accusing each other of committing various crimes that Rajneesh probably didn't commit, but Sheila most certainly did. Rajneesh later invited police onto the commune to investigate the claims that the cult had poisoned local residents, and investigators actually discovered 3 single-wide trailers that housed the cult's poison lab that Sheila had, overseen the development of. The lab contained several pathogens, including salmonella, typhoid, and various other pathogens on the Pentagon's list of biological warfare agents. Oh, God. Law enforcement also found articles on how to assassinate someone and how to develop explosives. They also discovered a research project called Moses 5, which, this is insane, which outlined plans for the cult to produce a live AIDS virus, which made Rajneesh's recent claims that 2/3 of the world would die from AIDS very, very suspicious. Now, granted, this is in the middle of the 80s. This is the middle of the AIDS panic. So, Sheila, she's probably hearing Rajneesh talk about, how to respond to the AIDS panic. She's thinking like, oh yes, this is very tough titties. World is going to die from AIDS, and we will make them do it. It is going to be very tough titties for everyone when they all die of AIDS. And so she's like creating this plan to like produce a live AIDS virus. And so, the police who are coming to investigate, they don't really know this yet. And they just know what Rajneesh has claimed recently. And so it doesn't really look good. In response to all of this, Rajneesh asked his followers to burn all of his books and declared the end of the religion he had always claimed definitely was not a religion, which it was. He then claimed that Sheila had created all of this Rajneeshism nonsense, not him. It's all Sheila. It was all Sheila all the time. I am Rajneesh. I am a 700-year-old enlightened being with my enlightened wiener. I know nothing about any of this. It was all Sheila. She is a very bad woman. Please do not hurt me. This religion, that was not a religion, is over. I'm done. I'm going away. Well, a month later, a federal grand jury indicted Rajneesh on 35 different charges. 2 days later, a Wasco County grand jury indicted Sheila and others for attempted murder, conspiracy, and assault. Now, with authorities closing in, Rajneesh, who by now had since come over to the United States and was trying to obviously fix all of this, he fled the compound on his private jet on October 28th. The FBI quickly found out about the escape and tracked his jet to its next fueling stop in Charlotte, North Carolina. He was arrested as soon as he landed. By the end of the year, Sheila was sentenced to just 4.5 years in prison. The cult compound was liquidated and sold off, and the residents of Rajneeshpuram voted to change the town's name back to Antelope. Despite all of that, Rajneesh was somehow able to return to India and took up residence back at his original compound in Pune. Within months, he had gained 15,000 new followers and then died of heart failure on January 19th, 1990. Sheila, on the other hand, served her prison sentence, paid off a $469,000 fine, and, at least as of this recording, lives in Switzerland, where she operates care facilities for elderly people with dementia and schizophrenia. Rajneesh's cult continues to operate and is now known as the Osho Institute, just in case you ever hear about something from them. This movement currently has 750 meditation centers in more than 60 countries. All right, Rajneeshpuram in the books. Great start to the summer of cult. Let us recap and see what we learned today.
What did we learn?
Number 1, Rajneeshpuram, founded by Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, allegedly 700-year-old mystical enlightened wienered being from India. Yeah, whatever. But after a while, it really seemed like Sheila was running this thing, right? Number 2, tough titties. Tough titties. Everything is tough titties. Anyway, number 3, the group literally launched a biological warfare, a biological attack. They infected so many places in the town of Antelope / Rajneeshpuram with salmonella. Hundreds of people got super sick on this, and they didn't really get in trouble for it. Rajneesh went back to India. Sheila served a few years in prison, paid off a fine, but she's back to running a successful business now in Switzerland. And so they kind of got away with it.
What did we learn?
There you go. The Netflix documentary Wild Wild Country covered Rajneeshpuram cult. So if you want to go check that out and learn more about them, go ahead and do that. But next week, we continue the summer of cult with Keith Raniere and Nexium. This is another fairly recent cult that actually involved some lower level Hollywood actresses, I think. Again, more sex stuff, It's mostly always about sex with these cults. Just whatever. But that's it. We'll cover them next week. Thank you for continuing to listen. Keep telling all your friends and keep it weird.
podcast.